sits closer to the water, some sits on the hill, some sits, you know, in the valley. So they're all created from still those four elements, but they are all bringing forth their own beauty, their own design. And that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to bring together, bring about our own beauty, our own godhood, our own powers, and then bring that and combine it with others' creative power to make this whole, this completeness that we talk about, the God, really, the wholeness, the godness, the one and all and the all in one, okay? You see, and you see, our ancient ancestors, our Indian ancestors, our African ancestors, they knew this. They knew it was about the spirits in the air, the spirits in the water, the spirits in the earth, and the spirit there that we can tap into to empower ourselves. And this is why we were programmed to look at just one God. It's the one God theory that clamps us of our powers. Because you're thinking it's blasphemous for me to see myself, you know, as this creative power, you see. And so you're not tapping into that because you're, you know, but because they're telling you there's only one God. Well, who do I think I am? If I think, if there's only myself as God, then who do I think I am, right? So, you know, there's many creators. You know, when we're talking God and the wholeness of what we're talking, the one God, that's when all of us comes together, collective consciousness as one. That's why we were so scientifically divided, you know. That's why the Lynch thing was necessary, to keep us fragmented and divided, because as long as we're fragmented...
Sun sign. This is about the Aries within us, and this is the spiritual warrior of the zodiac. We know that Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and so whenever we're dealing with the Aries energy, then it's about new beginnings. We're beginning a whole new cycle of operations. We just came out of the Pisces energy right here, and I was getting a lot of phone calls in the Pisces energy because that was a cleansing time. You know, a very, very thorough cleansing. It's going to cleanse to the deepest level of who we are. The Pisces, this 12th house here, represents the area of your subconscious, you see. So it was time to clean out anything that you may have been in denial about, anything that you had been holding back on, not wanting to face. That's what the Pisces energy did. It brought that to the surface, made you deal with it, because you had to, you know, clean up old baggage, put them to rest, so we can move into a new cycle at a higher level in the Aries energy, you see, as spiritual warriors. This is a new age. We're moving into a new age. Time is dropping. We're probably between 12 to 14 hours in the day now. And that's because the spiritual force is getting stronger now. So what we have to do now is step up to our rulership. It's time to step up to our rulership as the creative force of the universe, no less, okay? So that's what the Aries energy is going to do now. It's going to identify where you need to make a claim to take your leadership, because Aries is a cardinal sign, which is a leader sign. It's the element of fire. So where are you going to put your passions at to step up and claim your warriorship, you see, as the royal rulers of the universe? This is what the Aries energy is going to generate for us now, you see. Not a physical war, but a spiritual war, you see. So I'm just going to give you some information, of course, on the Aries energy. I'm going to start off with Alice Bailey, Esoteric Astrology, and just give you give you some information on that Aries energy and what it means for us. And like I said in the beginning, I want you to recognize that all of us, somewhere in our charts, we're going to be able to identify where that Aries energy shows up, and that's the area that you will be looking at to step up to your warriorship, okay, and fight for the righteous cause. I never talk about a person's sign without talking about their opposite sign, because now is the time for us to start getting a holistic view. And we've been operating just on the physical side, We've just been operating at a physical level. Now that the spirit is getting more stronger, it's time for us to deal with the spiritual half of what we're dealing with on the physical, what's being reflected physically from what's unfolding universally, you see. So the physical world is only a reflection of what's unfolding on a spiritual level, you see. So when you put the two halves, the physical and the spiritual together, that's when you have a wholeness, you see. So when we talk about a sign, we talk about its opposite sign, therefore you get the fullness of the concept. And I always like to use Aries and Libra as an example on that because I always say if you take Aries and separated it out from Libra, you have someone running around kicking ass all over town, okay? Then if you look at the Libra, you have somebody with no backbone, you see. So it's not until you put these two together in their full concept that you have a warrior for justice or a warrior for peace, you see. So now you're seeing it in the way that it's meant to be used, you see. So always use the wholeness. Always look at the opposite sign because everything is about balance, see. This is a fire sign, this is an air sign. So where this inspires mentally, then this takes action on and goes out and conquers that warrior, okay? The first thing I want to read, let's see here, page 198. Just want to give you a background on the Aries energy. Okay, here we go. It says, this is not the page I want. Let's see, I'll just go here. 91. Okay. Aries, the ram. Aries is one of the constellations of the cardinal cross, as I mentioned, which is a leadership quality. Aries is one of the constellations of the cardinal cross of the heavens. This is the cross of God the Father, and therefore of the incarnating monad. It is the expression of will or power as it expresses itself through the great creative process. When the initiate transfers himself onto the cardinal cross from which he descended when coming into incarnation and mounted in its place the common or mutable cross, he no longer identifies himself with form or even with soul, but with the will of divinity and with the eternal plan and purpose. It becomes his plan and purpose. Aries initiates the cycle of manifestation. All souls as individual entities come into human incarnation for the first time in the sign of Cancer, emerging as mental entities in the sign of Aries, as emotional desire entities in the sign of Taurus, and as vital entities in the sign of Gemini, taking the physical form in Cancer. This is an involuntary subjective cycle. Thus, they emerge into the ocean of physical plane existence, into the world of matter. Yet the first impulse is awakened in Aries, for Aries is the place where the initial idea to institute activity takes form. It is the birthplace of ideas, and a true idea is in reality a spiritual impulse taking form, subjective and objective. It originates the response of the soul to the highest aspect or quality of deity, because there appears the will to incarnate. So that's what the Aries energy symbolizes at its highest level, you see. Now, you may want to get the tape in order to be able to, chew on that information, but it's very deep information within that. It says here, it says, Aries is also the purveyor to our solar system of fire, electric fire, and of the dynamic nature of God, which has in it the qualities of fostering and nurturing heat and also of the fire which burns and destroys. So the fire that burns and destroys, we're looking at the physical aspect of that fire element of Aries, which, you know, is the war, physical war. But then when we look at the electric heat, the electric fire, that's the spiritual fire, we see. A spiritual impulse of fire. And also I want to go to the archetype of the zodiac. If you haven't, I really recommend this book because all the truths are in fairy tales, legends, comic books, movies, you know, everywhere that probably the intellectual will not want to look. The myths, you see. And so this book here ties in the myths with the astrological signs, you see. So it's a very valuable tool for understanding. See, when you understand the myths, then you're getting to understand the qualities of that energy and understand its purpose. See, not just the individual aspects of it, but to understand the purpose of that energy. And it says, the age of Aries is a solar or masculine age. It is the age of the realm, of Mars, and of the hero. In the late Bronze Age, heroes in Greece invaded in India, attacked the sacred groves and of the great goddess. Those heroes on horseback, these princes in their solar chariots wrested control from the local rulers. They also destroyed the fertility cults whose priestesses and oracles supported in the old dynasties. In mainland Greece, heroes like Persephone invaded the sacred shrine of Medusa, protectress of Lady Althea, and destroyed her ritual mask, broke the sanctuary, and drove out her priestesses. They had succeeded in ending the ritual sacrifice of young prince, and by substituting a sacrificial sheep or lamb for the prince, had protected the institution of kingship. Patriarchy replaced mother right in the late Bronze and early Iron Age, and priests replaced priestesses. Heroic myths about warrior princesses defeating dragon lady monsters revealed that they believed that they were delivering the countryside from bloodthirsty demonists who laid waste the land. They believed that power had passed from the older goddesses to their own newer divinities, and that their solar or masculine worldview was more orderly and rational. See, so this is when we went into the solar rule, into the solar rule from the lunar rule, from the mother rule into the, and it's all about cycles, you guys. If you look at this chart here, you know, if you look up here, this will represent the masculine half, this is the feminine down here, or this is the masculine over here, and this is the feminine over here. So it's all about the cycles, you see. So when we come out of the feminine, which is the moon, make that cycle around, and we're talking ages now here, and you come into the masculine rule when you crossed over that line here. So it's about a cycle of energy, it's about a cycle, and we moved into the masculine side of the rotation. That's what that's symbolic of, okay? It says the age of Aries then brought about a dramatic change in symbolism from the lunar feminine to the solar masculine. The Aryan age was a period of violent, heroic activity, of feats of dare-doing. It says Aries energy is like the sun's ray, clear or conscious, frank, direct, obvious, full of light and heat, and visible to all. Though all three fire signs are solar in nature, Aries is the most exuberant, just as spring is the most exuberant season. Thus, astrologers say that the sun is exalted in Aries. An exuberant planet in an exuberant sign leads to an exalted personality, you see. So, so we're looking at the fire element. And when I say we're stepping up to our warriorship to rule, you see, you look at the other fire sign, Leo, and then you look at Sagittarius, you see. And so they are in harmony with each other. That energy is in harmony with each other. Leo represents the creative rulership, you see. So stepping up, this is actually, Aries is actually the power behind the creative rulership, which is the spiritual rulership, you see. And then Jupiter would actually expand and open up that rulership to encompass as many people as it can. In other words, it spreads that rulership, you know, and no bounds. It continues to spread it and spread it and spread it, because Sagittarius is like the explorer, adventurer of the zodiac. So it's going to continue to explore new grounds, you know, to extend that rulership into. And the thing about Aries, though, the thing about Leo being the ruler, Leo is also the sign that deals with your joys. In other words, it's a righteous rulership when we're looking at the rulership of Leo, because it deals with your creativity, your pleasures, and looking at its opposite sign, Aquarius, we're going to be dealing with, when we look at Aquarius, we're dealing with the humanitarian, you see. So when we put these two together, we have a righteous rulership for humanity, you see. So we're looking at reversing things and bringing in a spiritual rulership versus the physical rulership that we've been subjected to, you see. And it's time for us to make our claim on that rulership and step up, you know, and know who we are, know how to activate our power, our spiritual power, which comes from within, you see. And wherever we focus our energy is what we will open up and energize, or what we will create, you see. So we have to step up to that rulership and heal Mother Earth, you see. So with a righteous rulership. It says here, see. It says, an exuberant planet in an exuberant sign leads to an exalted personality. The sun is the only I am planet, and Aries is the I am sign. The archetypical Aries takes pride at being on earth in that physical form or body, pride in him or herself and in his or her creative capacity, his or her drive to fulfill his desire in the outside world. Let us consider the glyphs of Aries, and for Mars, the mundane ruler. Aries is the ram's horn and the battering ram. Aries make a place for himself in a crowd or in a waiting line. He lets the restaurant hostess knows, I'm here. Aries represents the irresistible force. It says Aphrodite is opposite Mars, just as Aries is 100 degrees across the wheel from Libra. An undeveloped Aries, a young child, or one who hasn't studied or observed others' social behavior, you will use the word I, a solar and a Mars word too often, you see. If you'll notice, Aries, they do use the word I a lot, you see. I. You know, because they are the sign of I am, you see. And they're the very first sign of the zodiac, so they represent the baby of the zodiac. So, you know, it's just like a baby, you know, is looking at their needs before anyone else's, okay? So it's that type of Aries energy, you know, that baby energy just bringing birth or coming into the world. And so it's about my needs, you know. And so that's why you hear a lot of lower level Aries, you know, will be very, see this house here, the first house that Aries rule is the house of personal actions. So it's all about your personal actions. When you're dealing in the Aries area or with the Aries energy, it's about my own personal power, okay? And that's why it's in opposition to Libra, which is about partnership. So we're going to look at I am, my power, and then my power in relation to my partner. And how do we form equal and fair partnerships, you see, and both of us be allowed to use our personal power, you know, our Aries energy. It says the Aries who is a battering ram in his career relationship will often be a gentle lamb at home, a true innocent when it comes to relating to the opposite sex. The glyph for Mars is the biological symbol for the male sex. Many people whose Aries energy manifests at the mundane level alone identify with Mars, with their libido and the senses, with their body drives and instincts. Now, most people think that Scorpio is the sexual sign of the zodiac, but it's Aries, okay? Aries is the sexual sign because of its planetary ruler, Mars, which is the sexual energy. So, you know, what happens is Scorpio is in a house that deals in a sexual area, you see, of bonding. So sometimes, you know, that can equate. And also, Mars is a co-ruler for Scorpio, you see, so it'll have some of the effects, you know, of what the Mars energy would do. So that's how it got its reputation. But because of Scorpio's intensity, you know, it kind of pretty much overshadowed the Aries claim to that fame. But it says the military attracts many Aries, men or women. You know, you'll find a lot of Aries in the military, martial arts, you know, any form of war. You know, it's not a coincidence that as we moved into the Aries energy, what do we have over there? Jerusalem, you know, war has just broken out, you see. This is just giving you a view of how that Aries energy is manifesting itself. It's the energy of war, you see. So we're looking at that, you see. Now, let me see, what's this? Okay. And now, what we need to understand, though, is how does that Aries energy show up for you, you see. Now, I put this chart up here. I have what we call an Aries rising, okay? So that means that Aries would go in my first house, which means I would have what we call a natural chart, where all the energies, just like I put it up here, my energies would fall in my chart the same way. So I'm going to use this for demonstration. Now, the way to understand where your energy is going to fall in your chart is to find out what your rising sign is. Because whatever your rising sign is will go into that first house, you see. And you understand that by the time of birth. That's how we calculate that, with the time of birth. Because whatever sign, this represents the horizon line, and whatever sign is crossing over that horizon line, at the time you were born, that represents your rising sign. Say Leo was crossing over, then we would put the Leo energy in the first house, okay? And then follow with the other energy. Virgo would go next, Libra would go next, you know, Scorpio next, on around till we fill the chart up that way. So that individual would have a Leo rising. And so his energy would fall in different areas than what you're looking at, where my energy would fall, okay? But this chart here is a good chart to look at because it gives you just a basic picture to understand what these energies are doing. So now you'll see that the Aries energy falls in the first house, which I was just telling you. And so that's the area I would look at in order to understand, you know, what it is, where I'm being affected when the sun moves into that Aries energy. Which area of my life is it going to highlight? Is it going to bring to the forefront, you see? That's what happens when you look at your chart and find out where that energy shows up for you. For me, it would be my personal actions, you see. All of us, like I was talking earlier today, okay, I'm supposed to be going home for my my niece's wedding this weekend. Then the following weekend, I'm supposed to be going to Indianapolis. And then one day, and then I go into Houston. So this has been a very active period for me, as demonstrated by my rising sign, which deals with your actions, you see, in that Aries energy. And that's what it's highlighting, it's opening up, you know, all the activity for me, you see. So, you know, so that's what you want to discover. Where does that Aries energy fall for you? Now, if you are an Aries sun sign, it really does indicate that that you came into this lifetime to focus on that Aries energy. You see, to be the warrior, you see, a righteous warrior. And so wherever your Aries energy shows up, it shows you where you're going to step up to that warriorship at. Say you, your Aries showed up in the 9th house. That's the area where you expand on your spiritual consciousness, you see. So with that Aries energy in that house, then you would be a warrior for that. You would fight for expanding on your spiritual consciousness, you see. That's how that energy would show up for you. Or if it fell in the 6th house, you would become a warrior for health issues, you see. That's how you look at that. And wherever you see the Aries, and Aries, when we talk about Aries, we have to talk about Mars, okay? And now, when you look in your chart, they're going to be in totally 2 different spots, you see. You're going to have your Aries energy ruling one of these houses that tells you about a part of who you are. And then you're going to have the Mars planet sitting in whatever sign, you know, but that's also pumping in that Aries energy, or that Mars energy is pumping in the same type of energy that you would be dealing with when you deal with the Aries energy. And so wherever you see the Mars show up in your chart, that's where you're going to be most prone to do your fighting, okay? That's where you're going to be most defensive at, you see. Do a lot of defending. If it shows up in your 4th house, which is your area of family and friends, then you'll be one who fights, you know, when it comes to your family and friends. You see, nobody mess with your family or friends, else that's what will set you off. So, so that's what we need to discover. We need to discover what it is that, where that energy shows up for us, so we'll know where to step up to our warriorship at. We're beginning a new cycle, a new beginning in our own claim for a new rulership in a new age, you see. And that new cycle and new beginning is also the Aries energy. Just like I told you, we step out of Pisces and step up to a new level and for a new beginning in Aries. It says you have to connect the fire signs. You know, the fire, what we're dealing with is the elements of nature. That shows you everything that is going on when you're dealing with the elements of nature. You have first the water element, which is your emotions, and it deals with your soul component, you see. Then you have the air, which is deals with mental. How do I think? You see, the air sign is going to tell you how you think. And that's the spirit component at a higher level. Then we deal with the fire. The fire is next. The fire is our passions on a mundane level, but when we're dealing at a higher level, we're dealing with our divinity, you see, and this is where we access our power. This is how we open up to our creative power, you see, at the fire level. And then when you've brought all 3 of those together, then it makes a physical manifestation in the earth signs, you see, but only after you have defined what you value. You see, you have to be a vessel of value and integrity in order to get this energy to manifest physically, you see. You have to bring in, we are trying to become full. We're trying to become whole. We're trying to use all of these energies. We have all of these energies within us. And we can draw upon these energies when we want to activate our purpose, you see, as we step into our new spiritual rulership, you see. So, Mother Earth is in a transformation. And we are showing the individual representation of that transformation, you know, as we start getting more into the spiritual rotation of things and start to deal from that perspective. The things that worked for you before are no longer going to work for you now, okay? And the things that didn't work before may work now, you know, depending on your intent. This reversal is definitely going to cause a decline in the material physical world, you see, as we put on our spiritual cap. These are opposites. 2 opposites can't occupy the same space at the same time. One has to give way to the other unless you have them in balance. And since we have been programmed toward the physical, you see, we are going to have to give up on the physical in order to balance with the spiritual. But this is really good news for us. This is celebration news for us because we are the spiritual people, you see. It's the white folks that are the material people, you see. And I probably said, some of you probably heard me say before, that the white man had to rape Mother Earth of her materials in order to empower himself, because he did not have them that within him, you see. But the biggest deception came is when he convinced us that we had to empower ourselves the same way, because we do have the same thing in us that the earth has in hers. And it's just now time to reverse our perspective and start tapping into that energy by opening up to it, you see. And how you do that is getting in touch with your own spirit. It's the only thing that's going to give you guidance on how to do that. We cannot afford to look outside of ourselves for anyone to lead us, you see. Only your spirit, because we're all on a unique journey here. We're moving out of the age of Pisces, going into the age of Aquarius, which is about I know. So we activate our energy according to our knowing, you see. Where Pisces was the age of I believe, you see, and this is where the religion came in at. And it's a water sign, and anytime we're dealing with a water sign, we're dealing with emotional issues. So this was mass manipulation, you see. That's how the religion got started, through mass manipulation of our emotions, you see, where someone has defined our belief system for us, you see, because they know we are the creators, and what we believe is what we create, you see. So whoever defines what you believe defines what you create. So that's what the religion era was all about. And now it's time for us to go to the Aquarian age, where we go inside and find our own unique gifts. That's what Aquarius is about, uniqueness, you see. Finding our own unique gifts and bringing that to the table to make a whole. But only your spirit is going to be able to give you that guidance. You know, we may use common tools, but we each are on our own unique path. You see, so we have to be more tuned to our spirit than anything else, see, because it has a perspective that connects it to the universal whole. So it has a perspective that we can't see from our physical perspective, you see. So the more physical we became, the more we lost memory of these powers. But our spirit didn't forget, you know, and it moved forth from the deepest level of who we are to activate those things into creation, you see. And as we line up with our spirit, you know, we come back into the remembrance of that, you see. But we have to give total respect and credit to our spirit, you see, because it's always trying to prove itself. But it's going to prove itself from a reversed angle. In other words, it's going to show you the bigger picture, and then the physical building blocks will fall into place, you see, to come together in that bigger picture that your spirit has already revealed to you, see. But it depends on how much validity you give your spirit as to how much you can activate that creative force to go to work for you. Because the moment you start fearing, doubting, or having any guilt in association with what you're doing, you undermine the power of your spirit. It will immediately, you know, halt its activity. So you have to be, and there's going to be many physical tests, you see, because like I said, the physical is the opposite of the spirit. And the flesh does fight the spirit. When your physical existence can see that you're trying to open up to the spiritual, it knows it's losing its power. So it's going to give you an opposite perspective of what your spirit has shown you is about to be opened up for you. So the area where you're finding the most agitation is usually where you're making a physical sacrifice in order to open up that spiritual empowerment, because the opposite is opening up as to what is falling down for you in that physical level, you see. So we will be tested. Our spirit will test us on that. It'll show us a vision in a dream, or, you might just see a vision, or, you may go get some type of consultation where you get this sort of information. And then the next thing you know, there is something opposing that on the physical level that makes you think, oh, this is impossible, which it is from your physical hands. It is impossible, to overcome all the obstacles that seem to come up and block this, you see. But not from your spiritual perspective, because like I said, it can activate the magic and the miracles, you see. And so you have to put the faith and the trust that, you know, as long as I'm doing my spiritual work, then my spirit will go to work to take care of my personal needs, you see. And as much as you empower your faith and focus, you see, that is how much you will send out your spirit to accomplish your goals, you see. I tell people we have to live for the moment. We have to live for the moment. That's how we prove our power, you see. Everything is reversing, you see. And this system is falling down very, 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 very quickly, okay? I heard some information on the news today where I think what it is, the state of Georgia is getting ready to try to bring forth a bill where they're going to have mandatory inoculations for bioterrorists, and they're saying that, well, we won't force the people to take them, but if they don't take them, then, you know, they will have to be quarantined. Okay? So, yeah, concentration camp. And they said this bill is passing, you know, what's his name, Mayor Barnes is putting it out there. I mean, Governor Barnes is putting it out there. And there was a lot of opposition to it, but it still passed. It still went, you know, to the next level, you see. So, told you, they're trying to set up the New World Order by 2003. And they're on pace. They're on time from what I can see, because that's something. Yes?
Are questions?
Yes, yes.
This is going to be very Aries-like, but one of the things that hit me recently was that our picture of the signs in terms of the earth, the fire, water,
yes,
is incomplete.
Yes.
There are other things that we ignore. For example,
right.
motion.
Right.
You were talking about, I think you used the term, the immature Aries.
Yeah. Right,
like
the higher level, Aries,
level.
Right.
Which verifies this idea that once you add motion to the equation,
yes,
our view of the signs tend to be altered.
Yes, absolutely.
At some point, I did write some of these things down because I begin to see Aries, because you see fire is really not an element, it's a byproduct. When you think about it.
Right.
It's a byproduct of opposition.
Okay.
And as I begin to reflect on it, I begin to understand, because I'm, you know, at least part Aries.
Right.
That opposition was the key to understanding
that fire. Right. That
heat,
absolutely, yeah.
Right?
So, and as I read in, I think it was this esoteric astrology, they were talking about an electric fire. Okay. So
here's a question. That was kind of set up. You've talked about the evolution, and you've used the word us and them.
Right.
I think the question I have is, what exactly is taking place in terms of the evolution of us, and might not that evolution affect the way we understand?
Right. Absolutely.
The signs. Because all of this stuff that you're talking about thus far,
right,
it's all already in me.
Yes.
I just recall it.
Yes. Right.
So what exactly is this transition, and how does that affect us? And maybe
like with them, like us and them, right? Okay. When we talk about the Great Mother, we're talking about, see, everything is about symbolism. When we're dealing on spiritual, we have to understand we're talking symbolically, you see. What our ancestors did was break down the characteristics of the energies and give them these characteristics so that we could understand, you see. We could understand what these energies characterized, you see. So when we think about the Great Mother, you know, it's actually symbolic of the blackness of the universe, you see. Okay? Now, the blackness of the universe, that blackness is the same substance that gives us our coloring, the melanin, you understand? Okay? Now, it's not that they don't have a spirit, because they do. We all have a spirit, see. Where their problem comes in at is the soul component, which is the water element, you see. So the more you have access to that blackness of the universe, which is where the power stems from, the power, the darkness or the blackness only adopted light to illuminate itself so that it may be visible. But all energy, everything comes from the blackness, you see. That's why they call the universe the Great Mother, the blackness of the universe, the Great Mother, you see, because all came from out of it, that blackness, you see. You get all of the colors from black, but you cannot get you can't get black from any other color, you see. So this is the power energy, and the more you can tap into that, the more you are empowered. So it's just a matter of who can access that energy. And because we have the melanin, we have better access to the energy as we go out further and further into the universe, you see. So it's just a matter of how far you can raise your vibration. And they can only raise theirs to a certain level. They have a glass ceiling where that's concerned. You see, just like we have a material glass ceiling, they have a spiritual glass ceiling, you see. So, and it doesn't matter who you are, what color you are. It's all about how far can you raise your vibration, you see. So you may see some of them raising it higher than some of us. You see what I'm saying? Right, right, right.
I want to ask you that too. What you're talking about, and I said concentration camp. People like you, I, and other conscious people. And if we're not sovereign or indigenous, how is that going to affect us in a way that they're trying to get us to do the things that they want? I mean, you know, how is that going to take effect?
Well, see, and that's why I was talking about following our own spirit. We have to see, when the sun was focused on the Libra energy, it was telling us, the universe was trying to tell us then to get in harmony and at peace with our spirit, get in partnership with our spirit, you see. Because, like I said, it's the only thing that's going to lead us through the chaotic time that we are going to come through, we're getting ready to go through, you see. In other words, we will have the power through the trust and balance, you know, within our spirit, you know, to supersede and lead us, you know, through anything. Just a second. When I had a dream, and in the dream, my spirit kept saying over and over again, fear nothing, fear nothing, fear nothing. And then I had a dream where it was like a pocket of energy. It was made up of the grains of sand, some mist of water, the sun, and the wind. And wherever this pocket of energy was going, it was disintegrating things, buildings and all. And people were trying to run, trying to get away from it. But, you know, wherever the element could go, that's where this energy could go. So you couldn't escape it. And the only people who it was not touching were those who were not afraid. And then I recognized that this was not for me. As a matter of fact, it was of me, you see. What we have to do, see, the universe is governed by the laws of the universe are governed by the principles of righteousness, you see. And so what we are supposed to be is in the spiritual rotation. When we're in the physical rotation, we're going up against that universal spiritual rotation, which is about righteousness, you see, holistic. So what we have to do is reverse from the physical and get into the spiritual rotation, which means we become those spiritual warriors and protector of Mother Earth. In other words, we identify to the universe where unrighteousness is occurring. And it's through our righteous indignation that we send out the energy to go forth and make a correction. The first level will be through like weather phenomena, you see. But the thing is that we have to understand that the destruction of this earth, we want it, you know. We want it. We want to help it alone, as a matter of fact, you see. Because this is about the prophecy, this is about the return of the Christ energy, which is going to be about restoring righteousness to an unrighteous civilization. And so there's all this serious programming going on. You know, let's band together and fight against this evil. They've turned Saturn, which is the father energy of the earth. They've turned Saturn into Satan, and Jesus into Zeus. I mean, Zeus into Jesus, you see. And so what they've done, they've turned us against our own power in favor of their power, because Zeus is the god of material abundance, you see. So we're energizing their purpose, you see, when we're participating in their rituals, and they have daily rituals. Anytime you do anything in a mass participation, you're doing one of their rituals. And like I said, the Olympics, the Super Bowl, all these things are rituals, you see.
What about President Bush coming last week on the full moon?
Oh, man. And see, they're doing that. See, and Bush is the main family, the Illuminati family, okay, which really knows all these magical, you know, processes. And they've been working a long time. Like when I told you I went to Houston, and they had all these chemical plants, and they told us that all the children there are sick. They have asthma, you see, pumping all these chemicals out into the air. And then, you know, they got these prisons where they're killing all these people, sacrificing all these people. Now, with the chemicals pumping out, it's breaking down people's resistance to the influence of spiritual beings, discontented spirits from these prisons, you know, that they are killing all these people. So it's almost like there you got regular walk-ins at a, you know, it's just almost on a regular basis, you see. So they are really doing all that they can to they know what time it is. They know it's time for us to step up to our rulership, because they have remote viewing. They have extraterrestrials that's giving them information. They have actually went off into the future. You see, they've discovered all of this through our ancestral, you know, tombs, DNA. They've discovered all these secrets on how to do these things. So they know what time it is, and they're doing everything they can to circumvent us, all lifting our vibration. That's it. They just don't even want us to lift our vibration, because that's when we get access to the help from the universal forces. This is a universal thing. This is not just an individual thing, you see. This is when we come into our individual fullness. That means by using all 12 of these signs of the zodiac represents one of those 12 principles of righteousness, you see. And when we start operating in balance and using all of these energies, we're operating holistically. We reverse our rotation, and we get in with the spiritual rotation, the universal flow, you see, and that's how we get into the, you know, into operation with what's going on from the universe. So when you use all of these, then you become that holistic person. You reverse your rotation, you know, and then you're in that spiritual flow, you see. So what they are trying to do is circumvent us lifting those vibrations and, you know, understanding, following our spirit guidance. Like, for example, when that energy was in Libra, when I told you we were supposed to be trying to get at peace with our spirit at that time, when you turned on the TV, all they had on was war, war, war. They were flashing in your face, which is opposite, which is Aries. So that's their maximum distractor. In other words, as we were supposed to be concentrating on getting at peace with our spirit, so that we could feel that we had a safety net no matter what, you know, came down. They wanted to distract us from that, you see, and give us a fear. See, it's through our emotions that they manipulate us, and it's through our ego and emotions. These are the tools of the devil, I should say, you see, because it's our emotions and our egos that they will use, you know, so that what the main tool they're using now is fear, you see, keep us in fear.
Did you say that, you may have answered one of the previous questions, but did you say that once you raise your vibrational frequency?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Whatever that means.
Right.
Okay. That you begin to enter into area of balance
Yes.
as it relates to all 12. So you become, in effect, you step outside of the limits of this.
Thank you. Absolutely.
That's
Yes, absolutely.
That's what I see is coming.
Yes, yes. We no longer, see, the spirit, the physical body no longer has the power to hold back the spirit, okay? We're going to start seeing the spirit of things. You see, when you look at a person, you say, boy, they look bad, you know, but you don't know why. That's their spirit. Yes. I know, go ahead, yes. Right.
My name is Shiloh, and I'm here to instruct the people on the law, and I couldn't let this conversation continue on without assisting you in your answer, but it would be too long. This is her lecture for me to give you the details, but I will be doing lectures here where I'll be instructing you on laws, because the universe operates off laws, and there's chaos and disorder because there's been an absence of law. And so these absence of the violations of these laws upon the planet is what has caused all of this going on now. So the people have to be re-instructed on laws.
Absolutely.
You really have made yourself, we, not you, but we, have made ourselves the enemy of the mother because we have been participatory in breaking and violating her laws.
Yes.
So it's not as simple as you just having melanin. That's not going to save you. But that's just for a different lecture, so I can give you a little bit more information of where we at and where we fit in and what we need to be doing if we're going to be saved, because we are in some serious times.
Oh, absolutely, we are. But the one thing that no one can refute is to follow your own spirit, okay? Don't look outside of anything other than that for your answers, okay? Okay? And your spirit is the one who will guide you in your own unique and individual way as to how to make that transition, okay? No, it's not as simple as having melanin, but the melanin is a factor. I only use that to describe a factor of the question that you asked about, you know, as far as they versus them. And the melanin thing, that the reason I brought it up is because I was going to say that it puts us at the top of the hierarchy as far as being able to empower ourselves, you see. So that's the reason I brought that up. Yes.
I just wanted to point out the only reason why I brought it up is because, see, they too have infiltrated our bloodline.
Yes.
And they have created a bloodline that has melanin, but that's not us.
Right.
So when you look at the white woman who has bred in with us, you know that she can't produce a black person. See, I called into one show, and I had to tell the people that Halle Berry is not a black woman. So when you realize that the plantation master has defined for you who is black and who is what,
Right.
but they haven't been
Right.
on the planet. You see what I'm saying? They tell you if you got one drop of black blood, you're black, but guess what? The black blood was the only blood on the planet in the beginning. So they have defined certain people as being black who are not black. And then there are some white folks walking around that are not truly white, but under this system they are being allowed to operate as a
white.
Caucasian.
Right.
So you really can't tell by looking at, because there's people who have melanin who ain't us.
And that's why I said it's not going to boil down to that anyway.
Because your genealogy is based off of what your mother is. Your mother determines if your mother is white and she copulated with a black man, I'm sorry, you are what she is. You see what I'm saying? So Halle Berry.
And all of that is still just details. Those are still just physical issues that we are now having to supersede. You know, when we stop arguing about the details, then we start getting into the bigger concepts of what is going on, see? And that has been the problem. We have been literalized. We have been focused on all of these details when you put that little detail into and fit it to the whole picture, it's going to have very little influence on what we're really trying to see here, you see. We're trying to look from a conceptual perspective now, you see, and see those details are purposely there to hang us up, you see. Now that's the Virgo energy, and that is the opposite energy of that is the Pisces. And so Pisces is going to erase the lines that the Virgo energy will draw, you see. Very meticulous about the details. But see, this is on This is on the bottom half.
Let's
see,
get that out the way.
now Virgo will fall under the physical half of the zodiac. And then Pisces will fall under the spiritual half of the zodiac, you see. And remember, we're dealing with opposition here. So where we have, you know, defined and looked at the details and broke down the details, you know, in Virgo, when we transmute it in the Pisces energy, we're going to erase those details and operate from a spiritual, holistic point of view.
You said they were one, right? You said they were
They are
basically
one.
the same.
Yes, yeah. The polarities. We're dealing with polarities here. Yes.
Yeah, when you mentioned the Pisces and the polarity with the, what was it, the Virgo,
Uh-huh.
you gave us example of when they manifest in the positive mode.
Yes.
What type of, what happens when they manifest in a negative?
In a negative mode, okay. Well, Virgo in particular.
You can use those two.
Okay. Okay. Say Virgo. Let's look at Virgo. Very, like we said, very meticulous about details. It's an earth sign. It's a mutable sign, which means it's very flexible. But the lower level, one of the reasons why Virgo is so meticulous about details is because it's the sign of the healer, okay? And it has to purge and purify and cleanse in order for you to heal. So that would be a higher way to use that Virgo energy, okay? To cleanse, you know, and purge. But the lower level would be, you know, just, I mean, we can't make a move without every I has to be dotted, every T has to be, yeah, overcritical. Yeah, yeah, you know, very, very, very critical. Very hard on yourself, very hard on others, you know. They call them the neurotics of the zodiac because they're the perfectionists of the zodiac. And so they want everything perfect, you see. And you have to raise, they say you have to raise, yeah, everybody else too, but they're more critical on themselves than anyone else. The Pisces is deception.
So you're getting
Self-deception.
intense deception.
Yes, it don't have to be, wherever you see your Pisces is where you're most prone to deceive, be deceived, because that's Neptune energy. So if you're not using it in its highest level, which is your spirituality, then it's going to be deceptive, okay? And it's going to obscure things. It's going to, you know, so, right. You know, misconceptions, all that. And that's why I started talking about the religion began here in the Piscean age. It's a water sign, emotions, and, you know, and manipulating someone's emotions through deception.
Are you saying self-deception or?
Any kind of, I mean, whatever, any deception is going to fall under the Neptune Pisces arena, anytime. Yeah, it should be. Now, the highest side of Pisces is compassion. Okay, so and then the lower part would be manipulative. It's a mutable sign. They're the escapists of the zodiac. So they will escape, you know, in other words, they're the last sign, so they're like the martyr sign, and they carry the weight of the world on their shoulders, and when people don't want to help them recognize this ugly world, they'll find a way to escape, you see. They'll use some tool. Yeah, they won't deal with it. They're going, this is the Alice in Wonderland syndrome. You'll go off to your own beautiful world, you see, and only deal in that world. You see, you know, it could be any method. Mostly drinking, because it's a water sign. So you have to watch the drinking, you know, when that Pisces energy is adversely affected in your chart, you see. Because it's a water sign, so it might cause you to escape by drinking, you see.
How do you regulate, how do you raise your vibrational frequency? That was a term you used. How do you?
Right. It's got to do with the right kind of food that you eat. It's got to do with the right kind of stimulation to your mental process, you know. And, you know, and like I said, my number one tool is following your spirit. Your spirit is going, and I usually tell people the more bizarre you get your message, the more you're getting it from spirit. You see what I'm saying? You could be riding down the street with a question on your mind, and a billboard will pop up and answer it. That's spirit. You see, we're going to go beyond the physical. Where we're limited and held back in the physical, our spirit is not limited, it moves forth, you see. Yes, dreams, everything, intuition, hunches. You know, I tell people if you wake up in the middle of the night and you see look at the clock and see, add up and get a numerology value from that. Say you wake up at 12:45. What is that? 1, 2, 3. That's 7, 13, which adds up to 4. Okay, so we're looking at the 4th sign of the zodiac is Cancer. So you examine that energy to understand the message, you see. Or numerology. What does the 4 mean in numerology? I say you use every tool available, you see. But your first tool is your spirit, and it's the one that's going, you know, and it's going to train you if you just listen to it, you know. Like I went to the store, I was talking about, my spirit told me go back and get some light bulbs. I didn't do it, and my light bulbs all blew out, you see. So it'll test you in that way. It'll give you little mundane things to test you to see how much you're listening to it. Just so it can show you when you don't listen, you get your butt whooped, and when you do listen, things seem to blossom for you, you see.
What is the role of genetics? I mean, I don't think some people are genetically disposed to
raising their vibration, a higher vibration.
I'm sure it's just related to melanin.
Right,
but
absolutely.
I think it's related to something else.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
In other words, it's like as I walk through the average place, right there, you know, there are those who seem to be present.
Yes, and some that are not. Right. That's right. It's about the programming, okay? And it's the movie The Matrix. I always go back to that because it really gives you a profound, you know, understanding of what we're dealing with here, you see. We are batteries, okay? We energize their purpose, you see. And we remove our participation from energizing this illusion, all of this will fall down, you see. We come into this life as very powerful beings, okay? But as we start adding this limitation, you know, this structure, this, you know, whatever refrains us or holds us back is what is stifling our power. So we have to become of the mindset that we are the creators and ruling powers of the universe, and nothing, you know, like I said, fear nothing. Whatever you want to do, if you know you have the power to do it, you can activate that power. You see, we got to come up out of the system. We got to become unplugged. You see, I'm hearing about a phenomena of people leaving their jobs. I've been hearing that for the last week or so, you know, all the way from Texas, you know, to Indianapolis, you know, to New York. People are leaving their jobs. And that's because their spirits are doing